Okay, we're gonna do 3.4 now. 3.4 is reasoning in geometry, okay? It's talking about angles and the relationships, and we're gonna use the information of angles and the relationships to start solving more proofs. Okay? Complementary angles, you should know this. Complementary angles add to be what?
180.
No, 90. Complementary is 90, supplementary is 180 because C comes before S in the alphabet, so it's less.
Wow.
I don't know how, I won't remember.
I will never remember that.
So when you have complementary angles, it's two angles that sums add to be 90 degrees. Adjacent angles are two angles that share a common side and a vertex, meaning this. Okay? Adjacent angles can look like this. Those are adjacent angles. They share a vertex and a common side. Okay? Complementary angles can be adjacent angles, but they don't have to be. They're just two angles that add to be 90 degrees. Supplementary angles are two angles that sum to be 180 degrees. So once again, those can be adjacent angles or they can be individual angles. Okay.
Adjacent was my memory word last year.
Still my memory word.
And then vertical angles. Vertical angles are like this. If you have two lines that intersect, vertical angles make a V. That's how I remember it. See this V here and this V? These angles are vertical. 1 and 2 are vertical right there. 3 and 4 are vertical angles. Okay? Vertical angles are a pair of angles opposite from one another, formed by two intersecting lines. So you have to have two intersecting lines in order to have vertical angles.
Nice.
Okay? And they're the opposites of each other. Vertical. Okay? Give you a second. We have about 10 slides to get through today.
Somebody else is like about to fall
Me.
asleep.
There's a lot of definitions and terms today. But that's gonna help us make proofs easier.
So we're just identifying what kind of like angle or whatever?
Yeah.
Vertical angle.
Oh.
But also, listen, these are going to come into play in doing proofs, because we're gonna say those two angles are congruent, definition of vertical angles. Those two angles
This is the
are
last lesson we're learning,
in
This is
this
English.
chapter, yes,
right? No, it's like the whole year.
the whole year.
Like we're
Okay.
done.
You're standing in the view of the
Wow.
whole camera.
Ah, sorry.
Sit down, so you can see.
No, it's not
I'm
this
so
one.
tired. I have so much.
I can't see in the bottom corner.
I know, I'm working you out.
I can't see like this.
I know, yours is the worst.
But like you can still kind of guess what it is because it's like SD.
Plus, I say it out loud, so if you listen.
Right.
Okay, we are moving on in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so now we have a proof. Prove the measure of angle ABC equals 18 degrees. Okay.
Oh, I-
5x plus 5x plus
No, no, no,
9.
no,
No,
no.
stop, stop, pause, stop. Statements, reasons. What do you always start with?
Given
What is your given?
ABC equals 18 degrees.
Measure of angle ABC equals
I can't
18
think that fast.
degrees.
Wait, do you need to put x equals 18 degrees?
What?
Do we need to?
No, you don't need to put that. It says, actually, that's not your given, that's what you're trying to prove.
Oh.
Yeah.
So what are your givens? The measure of angle ABC equals what?
X.
What else is your given?
DBC is 4x.
It should be CBD.
EBD is 90
It should be
degrees.
CBD. You can do it either way.
I didn't think you would know that.
CBD and
I know,
DBC is
I
the
didn't
same
think I'd
thing.
know that either.
18 times 5 is
CBD equals 4x. What else?
DB is 90.
That's what Daniel said.
DB
Yeah, why you gotta copy me?
equals 90 degrees. Those are all given.
Wait, what did you?
No.
No, put DB, no,
Okay, I get it.
Okay, now what do we do?
Now we do angle addition postulates.
Okay, you wanna do angle addition?
Wait, no, we
No.
gotta, whatever you wanna, we gotta
Just like
do
skip
that the
this
one thing of 180.
What do you mean? the
EBA is equal to 180. Angle B.
Okay, you wanna
You
do
don't have to do
the
that.
measure of angle EBA equals 180, why is that?
Yeah, why do we even need that?
If it's
Because
on the
you'll need it
criteria-
later.
You'll need
if
Just
it's on the
straight line.
criteria of a flat.
That
You have to
is-
put that stuff
that
in.
is
Not
a
the
line
formula line,
postulate.
whatever it's called.
It's definition of line.
Definition of
No,
line.
you do angle addition postulate before that.
You don't have to.
You don't have to.
Then why were you guys yelling at me for doing it before?
The reason
Because
that they wanna label that first is because once they get to
Because
angle
they wanna
addition
make sure
postulate, they want to go into straight into substitution. So if they list everything first, then you don't have to plug this step in before you do substitution. That's what they're thinking.
No, they just want to yell.
Okay, third, what do I do? Okay, measure of angle ABC plus the measure of angle CBD plus the measure of angle DBE equals
CBA.
the measure of angle
And it's off.
EBA. That's okay. And that is angle addition postulate, yes? Okay, now what?
Substitution.
We wanna substitute things in, so we say x plus 4x plus 90 equals 180, substitution. Now what?
Addition. I mean, simplify.
Yeah, simplify. 5x,
Equals 90, plus 90 equals 180.
Simplify.
Now, additive property of equality.
good, 5x equals 90 degrees,
How long is this test?
additive property.
It's on a Wednesday.
I know, so I'm worried about finishing.
Guys, sometimes I give multiple choice on proofs.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
multiple choice?
Now what?
That's something else.
Okay, what does x equal? What's 90 divided by 5?
Cameron.
That's such a 1,000.
2000? Oh, yeah.
That's 12.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Wait, was that wrong?
It's
So you're
Miss
wrong.
Peters, I'm using this.
That's an
stuff.
18.
Is that okay? It's a marker that wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Nineteen.
What's 90 divided by 5?
18.
What?
18.
18.
16.
8.
Oh, I have a calculator, let me do this. No, nobody say
Eight.
it. Nobody say it.
18.
It's 18.
Okay, now what do you have to do?
You have to do x equals 18 and then that's the answer.
Nope,
Yeah.
You have to plug it back in.
you have to plug it back in. So you have to say the measure of angle ABC
Equals 18.
equals 18, what's that called that we just did?
That's called
It's
substitution.
called substitution. And now you're done. Because you had to prove that the measure of angle ABC was 18.
I don't like that this doesn't have it.
I understand nothing.
It does, you press second and on.
Let's get 1 to 4.
Whoa, okay,
And you're awesome.
listen, that proof, that is how you're gonna do proofs. Oh my gosh, I
Can
know.
I take a picture of this?
It's really not
Yes.
that much more.
Oh, yeah.
Someone says that.
Okay,
I'll send it on the group chat.
it's not a ton more, you just have to be patient because geometry is going to take
Not good
patience.
with
Oh, yes, Chloe, please send that
Okay.
to me.
Let me tell you,
I can't.
Algebra 2 is going to take patience, from
Daniel.
all the maths from here on out are going to take patience.
I'm not doing any more
I have
math.
patience, I just don't like.
I
drop
Right now.
out.
I'm trying to get out of this. so we don't
Now,
have math
let's
on
take a
my-
look. There's still more slides. Measure, hey, guys, listen. Measure of angle A is 4 times the measure of angle B. Prove the measure of angle D equals 36 degrees. How do I do that?
You'd be smart.
4 times 36.
Well, it's
Nope, you gotta give me a proof. It
Alright.
says, the measure of angle A is 4 times the measure of angle B. Prove! That means you have to set up a proof.
Look at the question.
Row, multiply.
Statements, reasons, what is going on? What's your given?
A is 4x, B is x.
Measure of angle A equals 4x. Measure of angle B equals x. Anything else off of the diagram that you can tell? What?
A is equal to C.
Measure of angle A equals the measure of angle C. That's
So
all
then,
given, right?
Is
So
it
then,
D
does that mean x
equals
equals 36?
Is it D equals
We're
36?
proving that.
Stop, stop, stop. We're trying to prove that measure of angle D is 36, okay? So we gotta figure some stuff out first.
Well, I already know
We
the
rate
answer is.
You can figure out what C is.
Did we write B equals D? Why are you assuming B equals D?
Oh, it doesn't have, never mind.
You can't assume, but you can tell me B equals D if you know the reason.
9.
Because A
There is a-
equals C.
Watch it be 9.
No,
I think it's gonna be
because
9.
the measure of angle B equals the measure of angle DY, Abby?
Vertical angles.
Vertical angles theorem.
Right.
Is it gonna be 9?
Okay, vertical angles theorem. Good. Now, let's keep going. What else can we do?
Wait, what's the vertical angles
Right.
now?
Vertical angles means if the angles are opposite
Was
each
that,
other,
like,
they're
not here
equal
when
to
this
each other
happened?
when two lines intersect.
Yes.
Yes.
Angle addition postulate?
What do you wanna add? Tell me first before we decide.
You can do the, if you're trying to get D, just like add everything up, and then.
Do you write measure of angle D?
What if E?
No, we're not there yet. We don't know that D equals 36.
The D.
You said what?
D.
We don't know that yet. That's what we have to prove.
Oh,
Just plug it in,
okay.
see what it
So what can we do from here?
These look
Substitute.
pretty, I like them. Oh wait,
Nope, there's
A
nothing
is-
to substitute in.
A
Yes.
is 4 times
Is that your
D.
monologue?
Wait, right?
is. B.
Mm,
A is,
Yeah, but I need you to give me an equation so we can start to solve and plug numbers in.
A, D.
Okay, listen, think for me real quick. What do you know about the measure of angle A and the measure of angle B?
A is 4 times D.
Okay, what else can you know by looking at that picture? Abby, got an idea?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that if A is equal to C, C
Oh.
equals 4x.
I think I know.
It does, we don't need that yet.
360.
Oh,
Not 360,
361.
what's 180?
360.
Half of 360.
Guys, listen, 180 is a line.
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
measure of angle A and B sitting on?
180.
The same line. You have to get an equation in there so you can start to solve.
4x plus x equals
Stop,
180.
stop, you're going ahead of yourself.
Stop. Courtney,
You gotta
stop.
give
I'm literally
me
zoned
the
out for
angle
2
addition
seconds and all
postulate
that
before you
happened.
can give me 4x and x.
yeah,
A.
actually.
Measure of angle A plus the measure of angle what?
B.
B equals 180 degrees.
I
Now,
got that.
that is angle addition postulate. Okay?
Great.
Now, here's what I need from you next, okay? Who said, look at what we already listed here. Okay, so what can I do with that information? Because we're trying to solve for,
We have to prove that B.
you can substitute.
Oh, got him.
You can substitute D in for B, why?
Because
Yeah.
they equal the same.
Yeah.
Okay, well, because they're what?
vertical angles.
Because they're vertical angles. Okay, so I can substitute it in because they were vertical angles, which I already established up here, yes? So it's just substitution. Now, what are you going to do from there?
You're gonna substitute the numbers in.
Yes, you're gonna substitute the numbers in.
That's a lot of steps.
So you have 4x plus x equals 180, substitution. Now what are you gonna do?
Division.
Simplify.
Addition.
Simplify.
Simplify.
5x equals 180, right?
Now you do additive.
Additive.
No, wait,
Well,
So that was,
Whoa,
you guys are yelling at me.
oh, that was simplified.
And then.
What did you say is next?
Multiplicative property. of
Multiplicative
36.
property, so it gets what?
36.
I really wanna go cheese pizza right now.
So,
My brain is.
My brain
My-
is dated.
My brain is just skipping like 5 steps.
My brain is like, I see 1 and then I go down to
Let's see.
8.
now what do you have to do?
Now you have to substitute it back in.
Substitute it back in.
Wow.
So the measure of angle D equals 36,
And that was.
and that was substitution at the end. Boom.
Brandon,
It wasn't any more steps than the other one, but listen,
Brandon, what
your
does
stuff
R
is going to take a
17
lot of steps. Remember how I said, the more steps usually the better, okay?
I know
Because that
R
means you've been more detailed, okay? Do not cheat yourself out of what you have to do,
What's the R for 7?
okay? Now, a couple new rules, a couple new postulates and theorems. The segment addition postulate, we've talked about this before, yes?
Yeah.
So AB plus BC equals AC, segment addition. Congruent supplement theorem, we have not talked about, okay? If two angles are supplementary to the same angle, then they are congruent. So, this allows me to skip a couple of those steps over there, okay? Because these are the supplementary to the same angle, then they're congruent. So, if angle B, okay, if angle A and C are both supplementary, meaning they had to be, what?
90.
No, supplementary, 180. If they are both supplementary to B, like we just did, yes, then A and C are congruent. So on what we just did, I can technically skip because I can say A plus B is 180, that means B plus C is 180 supplement theorem.
So which ones would
I
you
am
skip?
going back, relax.
Sorry.
Okay, so that means that I can kind of skip some of this substitution, a couple of these substitution steps, because I can just say that it is the supplements theorem, congruent supplements theorem, okay? So it allows me to like not have two double substitutions, I can do congruent supplements, okay? So if A and C are both supplementary to B, then A and C are congruent, even, which makes sense because they're also what type of angles? Vertical. Okay,
What exactly does supplementary mean though?
supplementary means that the two angles add to be,
180, like.
That's exactly what it means.
Two slides ago.
Is anybody else really hungry right now?
okay,
Yes.
three
Story.
more, three more, guys, focus. Congruent complements theorem, this is the same thing as the supplements, okay? If two angles are complementary to the same angle, then they are congruent.
So we don't need to write that down technically.
Well, it's a different one because it's congruent and not supplementary, but yes, it's the same rule.
So I'm not.
So if you write the title, you should be able to know what it means. So the congruent complements theorem says if two angles are complementary to the same angle, then they are congruent. Linear pair postulate. If two angles form a linear pair, then their measures sum to 180, okay? Or we've been writing definition of a line, okay? But we're gonna replace it with the term linear pair postulate, or a linear pair. And then vertical angles theorem says if two angles are pairs of vertical angles, okay? If two angles are pairs of vertical angles, then they are congruent. So if A and C and B and D are vertical angles, then A is congruent to C, B is congruent to D. It's what we know about vertical angles theorem. You can use the vertical angles is what we just talked about, okay? It's the same thing, it's just written more complicatedly.
Why they write it more complicated?
Because geometry likes words.
I like
It's
words
very
too.
wordy.
I
It's a wordy math,
I like words.
okay?
I
We
like
got,
words when they're
we got a few more slides to go here.
Okay.
Properties of equality that you need to know about, okay? The transitive property. Here's what the transitive property says. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. It's like what I talked about with you guys when we were doing if-then statements and we made an if and only if out of it, okay? This is called the transitive property. So if the middles are the same, you can get rid of them and the outsides equal each other.
That's cool.
Okay, so if angle A equals angle B and angle B equals angle C, then that means angle A equals angle C. Transitive property. You will use that a lot, so get familiar with that word. Okay, transitive. The next one is the symmetric property. A equals B, then B equals A. And yes, you're going to have to state that.
Oh.
The symmetric property. Yes, it is necessary sometimes, and they're going to make you state it. So they're gonna make you say, angle A equals angle C, that's gonna be a given, and then you might turn around and say C equals A, symmetric
I
property.
mean, I get it though, like, there's like a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's why. You literally have to learn everything.
Well, yeah, but you have to learn it with easy stuff and then you can do it.
Yeah, you have to learn it with easy stuff and then we'll apply it. And then the reflexive property, you also will have to label a lot. That's a lot of times in theorems or in proofs. A equals A, okay? And you can't just assume that we know it, you have to state it.
But you do know it. How do you know when you
Yeah,
know
I-
it?
If it is not a given, then you must state it.
What if A doesn't?
That's, Abby, that's
that
how,
one?
A equals A. Oh.
okay?
What? A equals A.
The one before it was symmetric property, A equals B, then B equals A,
This stuff.
okay? Then the reflexive property, A equals A.
What,
Okay.
harder than that?
So now we're going to prove this. Prove the measure of angle A equals the measure of angle C.
Oh, well,
Prove the measure of angle A equals the measure of angle C, and we are going to do a proof for it.
Yay.
There.
Here we go. I love your.
Okay. Tell me proof wise, okay? Let's try this. Let's start with our statements and our reasons,
Yay.
okay? What's your statement?
M measured angle
A equals C.
No, that's what we're proving.
No, that's the given use, right?
No, that's not a given, it doesn't say given, it says prove, you can't use the proof as the given. You can get givens from what? What can you get givens from?
Picture.
Pictures, look at the picture.
Measure of angle A plus measure of angle B
It is 180.
equals 180.
Okay, we can start there, you wanna start there as a
Yeah.
given? Okay, measure of angle A plus the measure of angle B equals what? And why would you say that?
Because they
It's
are
the definition of a
adjacent.
line.
This is the act.
Definition of a line, or what else are those called?
Linear pair postulate.
The what?
Linear pair
Linear
postulate.
pair postulate.
Caleb,
Oh,
you just wrote it down.
okay, now what do you wanna say?
Congruent.
There's another given in that.
Measure of angle B plus measure of angle C equals 180.
We can do that, but there's another given besides that in the
A
picture.
equals C.
Why?
Congruent, supplementary, or complementary, I don't know.
No. Why does A equal C? What type of angles are they?
Vertical angle.
Vertical angles.
Vertical angle is 0.
Okay, the reason, Courtney, I said, let's do this next is because we can skip your stuff and we can go. What can we do now? If A equals C, what can we do?
C equals A.
C equals, well, yes, but what could we do with, what could we do with, C, what can we do with it right now? Like, these are the two steps we have, what else could I do?
Measure of angle C plus measure of angle. Wait, no, that's.
Yeah, no.
We can't skip.
No, we technically are skipping because we're gonna use a different term for it. So if I do measure of angle C plus measure of angle B equals 180, what did I just do?
Substitution.
Substitution. Now what can you do?
Oh, you can,
Actually, time out. We already did what it asked, didn't we?
yeah.
Yeah.
Huh,
Oh,
oh,
That's
cool.
nice.
is this the last?
Scratch all that out.
note?
I literally.
Wait, so that's
No,
it?
That's it.
Oh,
Because you're just proving
sweet.
A equals C in there, there's no.
No, we don't need step
Wait,
one or,
wait,
yeah.
go back.
Let me do that.
I
That's
literally just
awesome.
wrote down vertical
This is,
angle.
What?
You would have done.
Yeah. Vertical.
Okay,
How many points
What?
do you think you don't do?
you have to make pass, yes. Okay, last thing. Angle, I think this is the last thing. Angle Z and P are supplementary. What's supplementary mean?
Equals 180.
Equals 180, they add to be 180. So they're supplementary angles on a line. Angle Z and N are vertical angles, okay? That means that angles P and N are what?
Can you draw it?
Well, you tell me how to draw it.
I mean, I gotta pass.
You have to tell me how to draw
Okay,
it.
draw a line.
Draw Z and P as supplementary.
Yeah, they're changing.
But do supplementary angles have to be on the same
Draw a
thing?
large X,
Yeah.
draw a large.
Oh.
They just have to equal 180.
Well, they do because it says that they're on a line, right?
Draw a large X.
Just draw a line.
Angle Z and P are supplementary angles on a line. Angle Z and N are what?
That means you have to draw.
Oh.
45.
That means that angle P and N are what?
Vertical angle.
No, supplementary.
Supplementary, why?
Because P and N add together.
Yeah, but what's the rule? There's a rule.
Congruent supplementary theorem or something like that.
Yes.
Linear pair.
Congruent supplementary
Two
theorem.
angles
Why is that
are
actually
from
Wait, that's
the
a
same
different thing.
angle, then they are.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
everything.
Okay? So listen,
Adam's
you are going
always
to
right.
need to draw things out.
And that's called the supplementary
Bowling, by the
angle
way.
theorem.
The congruent supplementary equal theorem. And do you know the sign for congruent?
Yes.